But I don't think so.
I'll see you.
No. But the sun's
Okay, so just so everybody knows, Betsy called me to say she was going to be 15 minutes late. So Jessica's going to start the meeting.
1 minute.
What?
1 minute.
No, I meant like just as a heads up. That's what she said. She said there's people coming. I said, okay. Out of town people. That's all I got.
You don't come as well.
Thanks for coming.
She told me she'd come.
I thought you were just going to be here.
Okay, it is 6:30. I'd like to call to order the 16th regular meeting. You okay? Okay. Of the Board of Directors of School Admin District 52 for the, let's see, the Pledge of Allegiance is by me tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Acting on the minutes of our 15th regular meeting on April 6th, any errors or omissions? Not accepted under general consensus. Next is public comment, and I'm going to read our rules again. So MSAD 52 Board of Directors meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the official business of the school system. All regular, special, and emergency meetings of the board are open to the public. The public is cordially invited to attend and to participate in board meetings as provided in this policy. This policy applies only to meetings of the full board, not to meetings of board subcommittees. Although board meetings are not public forums, the board will provide appropriate opportunities for members of the public to express opinions and concerns related to matters concerning education in MSAD 52 schools. The intent is to allow a fair and adequate opportunity for the public to be heard, while ensuring that the time allowed for public discussion does not interfere with the fulfillment of the scheduled agenda. The board will designate a portion of its agenda as an opportunity for public participation. During the time allotted for public participation, members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personal matters or complaints concerning specific employees or students, which shall be addressed through established policies and procedures. Members of the public may address the board within the guidelines provided in this policy. The chair shall be responsible for maintaining proper order and compliance with these guidelines. The following guidelines shall apply to public participation at board meetings. A, citizens and employees of the school unit are welcome to participate as provided in this policy. Others may be recognized to speak at the chair's discretion. Individual employees and/or employee groups will not be permitted to discuss matters for which complaint or grievance procedures are provided. B, the chair may limit the time allotted for comments on a particular topic, as well as the time each individual may speak. We've been doing 3 minutes for a while now. In the event of a sizable audience, the chair may require persons interested in speaking to sign up so they may be called on in a fair and efficient manner. During the time set aside for public participation, the chair will be responsible for recognizing all speakers who must identify themselves as they begin talking. Speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members or the superintendent only with approval of the chair. Requests for information or concerns that require further research may be referred to the superintendent to be addressed at a later time. Members of the board and the superintendent may ask questions of any person who addresses the board, but are expected to refrain from arguing or debating issues. Questions must be addressed to the chair. No complaints or allegations will be allowed at board meetings concerning any person employed by the school system or against particular students. Personal matters or complaints concerning student or staff issues will not be considered in a public meeting, but will be referred through established policies and procedures. In order to make efficient use of meeting time, the board discourages duplication or repetition of comments to the board. The board requests that groups or organizations be represented by a designated spokesperson. The chair has the authority to stop any presentation that violates these guidelines or the privacy rights of others. Persons who disrupt the meeting may be asked to leave, and the chair may request law enforcement assistance as necessary to restore order. An agenda shall be published in advance of each meeting in accordance with board policy. Copies will be posted and/or available prior to regular meetings in town offices, the superintendent's office, and on MSAD 52 websites. Anyone desiring additional information about an agenda item should direct such inquiries to the office of the superintendent. Opportunity for public participation at board subcommittee meetings is not required, but may be permitted in accordance with the board's policy and/or rules pertaining to the operations of subcommittees. We have any public comment? Sorry.
Crystal Nicholas from Green. Recently, MSAD 52 removed a book from the Levitt Library called Let's Talk About It, an innocuous-sounding title to a Pandora's box of propaganda, initiating as well as normalizing sexual acts for children. One day, this book is blessed and declared safe and effective by professionals with decades of experience. The next day, it is gone. Where were the TV crews to cover the sycophantic speeches of constitutional protections to access information exhorting children to, page 119, jam objects into their anuses? Did the book go away because of the creepy, overly helpful instructions guiding children to take nude pictures of themselves and/or their genitalia, page 152, to share online, providing the raw material of the pornography industry? Buy porn, this book extols, page 164. Respect and research porn stars, page 165. And porn is a fun and sugary treat. Sexually transmitted infections are no big deal, page 154, and kids should talk to a doctor and receive testing or medication without a parent present, page 225. Or just go to the empty house of your potential partner in practice, page 135. And where did this volume, formerly known as a library book, send kids to talk to about sex? Kids should trust and seek sexual support from therapists, hotlines, centers, teachers, doctors, internet, friends, some family members, but this book never names parents. This is no accident. An agenda is afoot to wrest control from parents, from what books your child is exposed to whom your child is trained to ask advice of. The content coming toward our children is steered by those alphabet organizations that guide the board and staff. Now these unelected bureaucratic associations have handed down the demand to excise the word academic from a policy on assessment. This doesn't exactly reassure parents as to MSAD 52's commitment to excellence in education. It resembles more the nanny state that seeks to essentially dilute concrete assessments with a far more subjective opinion on the whole child's social emotional learning. And years down the road, who is to say there will not be a directive to scrap the word assessment altogether? And be wary, they just might hand down a new definition of curriculum, unbeknownst to those poor parents who thought they could examine what their kids were being taught. Fealty to the experts, who some follow religiously, is required in this arena. Banal laws and a crumbling constitution don't stand a chance against policy's ability to successfully neuter the concepts of curriculum and academics. Those who wish to abdicate control over their children's education certainly may, but for the majority of those who wish for their part of $30 million to be spent academically educating children, this change is symbolic of yet another attempt to further dilute the rigor of our public schools and install yet another educational fad while thumbing a nose to parents' common law rights to direct the education of our children. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'm on. Regardless, it's a great day today. The sun's shining. You know, what I love most is, well, not most, but there's so many different faces here from when I came 3 years ago. You know, and whether or not we got off on the right foot, the wrong foot, You know, I believe that all you guys are here, you know, for a good cause, as am I. You know, my complaints over the books have been justified, the books being taken out. You know, when it came to masks, which I'm trying to be over that, I told the principals and stuff, I said that if you take the masks off, I guarantee you that the numbers would go down. How do you guarantee? I was asked. Well, it's hard to say that, but when they did come off, the numbers did come down, proving once again I was right. Just a simpleton from Leeds. So, you know, I look forward to this year finishing up. I look forward to coming back again next year. I think everybody deserves at least 2 sessions on the board, so congrats, Crystal. And, you know, and I'm just a parent that's worried about the kids. I feel that there's times where you don't listen to me. You know, I warn you about the books, and nobody takes that into consideration. A board member brings up the same concern and jumps right on it. So my concern was legitimate. I worry that when Anthony brings stuff up to make amendments, there's people that go against him when he's just trying to do right by the kids and the school. So, you know, I thank you all for what you're doing. I mean you all no harm, you know, and I look forward to the more meetings to come.
Any other comments?
Marlene Aguilar is a teacher at Leggett, and this is about year 35. It's year 43 teaching. First, I want to comment on the book because I never heard of the book until they gave us the wrong title, and then they looked it up and found it in the Auburn or Lewiston youth section. It's in the youth section of almost every library in the state. And I actually read the book because I wanted to know, well, what is it all about? The whole first chapter is about consent. What is consent? What consent isn't? Can you change your mind? Et cetera, et cetera. There is a section in the book that is very graphic. The pictures are hard to look at, but every other chapter in that book is very important for kids to know. And I didn't think we'd have to keep speaking about this book forever, so I actually was going to highlight for people the chapters in the book and how important they are for you. And I suggest that if you can get past the pictures, which kids see worse than that almost every day, that you actually take a look at the book and read it, and look past the pictures. The other thing is, this school has had a very good staff. We give kids a good education. We send kids off to top colleges. And it's time to stop bashing the school. If you actually send your kid to this school, they're going to get a decent education. So let's take a look at that.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, moving on to communications.
I don't have any. I know, sorry. Shocking to me as well. None. Of course, we meet every week, so.
Lately.
We had a slow week.
Adjustment to the agenda.
Yeah, so we removed the auditor's report, the audit. We did not believe we could get it to you in time for you to be able to review it before the meeting. So the auditors will be there at May 4th, the May 4th meeting after the district budget meeting.
Committee reports. So first committee is finance. Crystal?
Yes, we met this evening, and as Carrie just said, we touched very briefly on the audit, which we will hear more about on May 4th. So we discussed the wastewater treatment plant grants, where we're hoping to receive some congressional monies. We discussed the energy contract renewal, which will also be on the May 4th agenda. And we had some discussion about a solar array in Gardner, where hopefully we'll be receiving credits to go to our CMP bill. We talked about the phone system upgrade, which will be a reduction in our current, or our fiscal year 23 budget, and monthly going forward. So that will be a really great thing, and we learned that we'll be able to keep our phone numbers. So that was a really big plus. We reviewed February 23 financial reports and signed payroll and accounts payable warrants.
Let me just say one thing, the phone system upgrade will start in July.
In July.
So it won't impact this year's budget, it'll impact next year's budget in a positive way.
And did you say when our next meeting will be?
Sorry, our next meeting is May 18th.
That should be the 25th.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. That's our error. The 18th meeting,
That's right.
saying it out loud as many times as we can. The 18th is postponed to the 25th.
Yes.
Okay, Plan, Transportation, Building Committee, Joe?
Yeah, I provided an update on our last meeting last week. We have not met since then, but our next meeting is May 4th, so stay tuned.
Please note the time, 5 o'clock. It's the last early time that we have.
That is key.
Yes. It's because of the budget meeting.
And Curriculum Policy Committee, Jamie?
Same thing, we haven't met since last time, but our next meeting is the 4th at 5 p.m. as well.
Tri-Town Education Association Teacher Negotiation. Tried to get Jamie to report out, but she was not interested. So we've met several times, but since last meeting, we met this Tuesday. I think things are going really well. We had some good back and forth consensus going forward, and we have an executive session to discuss that with the full board later. And our next, actually, we're taking a little bit of a break. The next one's in May.
No, we come in Tuesday right after break, and then we take,
Okay.
then we have
Thank you.
a week off.
Student report. Or
And
it could be
Mayor would
May.
like to as her last.
Thank you.
Yes, this is my last board meeting before I retire, but thank you for letting me be here. But school's good. All of our spring sports have started, which is exciting, and we have spring break next week, so that'll be a home stretch to graduation, which is really exciting for me.
Well, thank you, Mela,
That's it.
for
Thank you very much,
sitting up
Mela.
here and learning about how we work and operate.
And thank you for giving your perspective, because I think it's important for us to be able to hear from students.
Moving on to administrator reports. First one is going to be Brian, our adult education director.
Good evening. First, let me begin by apologizing. I opened my report to see there was a typo. I'm sorry, my computer must have been broken.
Of course.
Just some highlights that I didn't mention in the report, some things you might see. We are building picnic tables for central office so people will be able to get outside and enjoy the beautiful weather. We had some people come to visit our students from Bath Iron Works to talk about different careers in Bath, and our 2 College for ME students are doing quite well in their experience at Central Maine Community College, and I hope they will finish their classes successfully. It's been a great year, and we're happy to see the sun again. Any questions? Thank you.
Danielle, Central School.
Last night I was enjoying the concert at my school and realized I didn't add that to my report, but we had our K-2 concert, and we had the beginning band, the intermediate band, and the chorus also performed, and they all did a marvelous job. It was such a great turnout, and our music teacher is really smart. She kind of separates it into 2 concerts in one night, so we had the gym completely packed for the pre-K, the K-2 concert, and then we swapped some people out, and then we had the band and chorus concert. And so it was an excellent time, and parents enjoyed it very much. Any other questions?
Evan, Leatherberry High School.
Just want to highlight a couple of things from the report that I shared with you. On the 1st of April, a couple of weeks ago on Saturday, Austin Poole and I attended the Maine Principal Association's Honors Luncheon, where Austin was awarded the Maine Principal Principals Association Principals Award. He was the recipient for the class of 2023. That's an award that really falls on me to pick, and they have pretty open-ended criteria around leadership and school involvement and academic excellence. So I believe Austin is an excellent candidate, and he represented us well at the lunch, and it's always interesting to, the lunch is usually in Bangor, we're in Brewer, so the hour and 45-minute ride, you never know how it's going to go, but we had a great ride up and back. So,
Was that the first in-person lunch since COVID?
that was the first one since 2019, yes, that's correct. A couple other things that I wanted to highlight that didn't necessarily show up on the report. As Baylor pointed out, spring sports are up and running, and I was out on the softball field, checking out the baseball field yesterday, and thanks to Dave Colburn and his crew, the fields are ready to go. The sports fields will be here in a couple of weeks to touch on a little bit, but in large part they are ready to be out there and played on. In addition to that, the spring play is up and running, and Miranda Mishu and the cast are in the process of rehearsals now, and the set is all up on the stage, and they're far into that. And we had a staff member, Sean White, one of our special education teachers, apply for, was accepted to, and last week attended the U.S. Marine Corps invited teacher to boot camp. I don't know exactly what to call it, but he was at Camp Lejeune last week for a couple of days. I haven't had a chance to talk to him in detail, but he survived and he's back. So he is a Marine, or he was in the Marine, so I think he just wanted to see if he could do it again. And they've also talked about some educational aspects of what they do. So good on Sean, and it was a good trip. And last but not least, Mr. Grady's been cleaning up the Sugar Shack this week after the spring sugaring season, and they made about 6 gallons of syrup this year. So all in all, very good season.
And my senior is super bummed she's missing out on the first Hive week.
Oh,
Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but what is the play? What is the title? Do we know?
I honestly do not know what the title is. I worked with Miranda on it, but I think it was a long time ago,
No
and I
problem.
can't remember what it is. I'm sorry.
Do we know when it's going to be hitting the
It's in May.
In May.
I think it's Miss Nelson is missing.
Yeah, it's based in a school.
It's on that book. There's a book Miss Nelson is missing, I think. I think that's what they're doing.
I know the stage has a bunch of desks on it, so it's a class.
I bet I can get Evan to send that information we passed on. I'll email you guys. So Jana, we moved her to next meeting, just so you know, and then Kim's got a report, but she wasn't able to be here tonight, so.
Do I still want to give the opportunity to ask questions about the report? that
About
Kim
Kim's,
sent?
yeah, I'll do my best if there are any
That's
questions. Yeah.
Any questions? I have 6.
I just am noticing, it seems like, I was just looking at the professional development piece and noticing that there was a training through the Dawnland, the Native American History and Culture of the Schools. Can anyone tell me a little bit about that?
Teresa can. The weather.
Yes. So as it notes in Principal Fuller's report, there has been a law in place for several years now, and that in the public schools, the students must learn about Wabanaki studies. That's in the social studies learning results. So the University of Maine, in conjunction with some of the tribal nations, put this training together, and it was it 4? Did anybody else take it 4? Okay, I'm thinking back. There were 4 units, and it was interactive in the sense that you could watch it. Some of the teachers that watched it together watched it and then had conversations about it. All of the participants earned a micro-credential from the University of Maine, as well as 7 contact hours, which will help them with their certification. So I took it, I learned a lot. I did not know about the history of Maine. Yeah, sure.
I participated in bingo night last night. It was a rake. wave. The PTA did a really good job putting that on, and the book fair was open, and it was fun.
This was at TPS.
Yeah, at TPS. So I think
Yeah. Apparently from 5 to 7 last night.
Wild times.
The one book fair thing when
they gave away extra recess for the kids when they won, and it was really cute.
Okay, 6.7, Assistant Superintendent Report, Teresa Gillis.
Okay, so on Tuesday of this week, Carrie, Wally, Jason Bretton, and I participated in a kickoff meeting with representatives from Atlas. This Atlas is a curriculum platform that we will be utilizing to support our curriculum work, and I'm more than excited to have this resource available to assist us in our work. On Wednesday, yesterday, I participated in a Workforce Ready 2030 panel discussion with systems engineering from Portland. I'm participating in Workforce Ready. It's a research project along with Jeff Sear, Danny Gay, Amy Musso, and Mary Barnard. The 5 of us are divided into different teacher groups, and I'm in the admin group, and we're working on specific activities related to the research that this group has been funded by Alfond. And then during this panel discussion yesterday, we heard from representatives of Systems Engineering, which is a employee-owned company in Portland, I think I said where it was, about specific skills they're looking for in their employees, and then how we can implement these skills into the work with our students. I believe that what we learned from this research project, even just the discussion yesterday, will continue to assist us in our curriculum work as we ask ourselves, what do we want our students to know and be able to do? And some of the skills that they noted that they are looking for are human and leadership skills, problem solver, critical thinker, someone who wants to jump in and wants to lead things, and the ability to do research. This company does not require 4-year degrees. They put emphasis on experience, internships, certifications, etc. And then also last night, Turner Elementary School had their book fair, and they had their Title I Family Night, which is required under the Title grants. And so I was there to give a short presentation, and then they enjoyed some pizza and went to the book fair. So that's the second Title night that I've done. Leeds was last week. Okay. And then Green Central Schools will be at the end of May. So that's what I've got.
Thank you, and thank you for when you did that presentation, because I had friends and family members there who included the importance of filling out our form that is tied to some of our federal funding. So I had people ask me about that, so thank you for getting that word out. I think it's really important to our budget process. 6.8, Superintendent Report.
Yep, so as Crystal mentioned, Gabby and I had a meeting with the Summit Ridge Energy, which are the new owners of the solar array that we signed a contract with Revision Energy a while ago. Somebody's here. It's a solar array that lives in Gardner. We anticipate that this will be online within the next 2 months. It was supposed to be December 2021, but we found out that this, in fact, will reduce our energy costs. And Gabby, I am going to do my best to explain it as she and I worked our way through. Because the way these solar arrays work, we will get a credit on our CMP bill, and we will get to keep 17.5% of that credit. So it's not an amount of money, it's based on the amount that the solar array produces. Once we start seeing the bills, I think we will understand, but we were able to confirm that this would reduce our energy costs. So we were very excited about that because we budgeted as if we, whatever our contract will be, but this will definitely help us reduce that. Talk briefly about the wastewater treatment plant. Next meeting, PTB will be looking at an updated agreement with Wright Pierce for them to continue to explore a subsurface solution for our wastewater, to try to avoid releasing it into the river, or continuing to release it into the river. So we're hoping on that night that PTB will bring a recommendation to amend our agreement with Wright Pierce to continue to do those studies. We also we know we remain on the list of potential funding of a project, of some of the costs for this project from our congressional representatives. So our hope is that if we get off that list and get funded, we won't need any additional money to borrow, that it will be grant funded. So we continue to wait. We're confirmed that one of them will not be able to pick us up this year, but we still are on the list for 2 others. And then I presented the budget Monday to the Green PTC and the middle school staff on Wednesday, and I'm scheduled the week after break for Leeds or Turner. I can't remember, I'm on the schedule for both of those. The only one I don't have scheduled is Turner Primary, so still working on that. But hoping to make sure that all teachers and as many of the PTCs have that information about the budget before May 4th.
Take it away.
Thank you. My apologies for being a little bit late here. And actually, as a follow-up on the budget presentation stuff, the link on the website for folks to send any questions that they have, that remains.
Oh yeah.
That remains active.
Yes, and I get a notification if anybody sends one in. Yep.
Thank you. So that brings us to old business, of which we have none. Try new business. Oh, sorry.
It's not old business, I just missed my hand earlier. Can you remind us again, can you remind us again when the Tri-Town meeting is?
Yes, so it's actually been good to warm up presenting to the PTCs. So the Tri-Town Select Board meeting is Leeds, Tuesday, 6 o'clock in the Leeds Town Office. If you don't know, that's the room is in the basement. So you go down behind and enter in that way. So any board members, I know at least 4 of you said you would be able to come. That would be fantastic. Abby and I will be there to answer as many questions as we can. And I've modified the presentation, like over time, the presentation we've done, I've modified that to be able to make sure that people get the information. I may provide a little bit different information because of the audience is the town select board, so. Yep.
Any other hands that I missed? All right, so old business, we still don't have any old business. New business, 8.1, you'll see in May. 8.2, presentation by district-wide computer science.
So I am projecting, but some of our computer science committee folks are here in the audience, and they may jump in as we have questions. The presentation will show behind you. There'll be a camera. So when this slide comes up with all of our names on it, you can jump up and introduce yourselves then. Okay. Take it away. All right.
I like the layout.
Well, yes, it was chosen by one of the members of the committee. Okay, so this is our mission statement, and I'm going to read it aloud. Computer science promotes innovative collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity skills for students to become self-sufficient and navigate and contribute to their community and beyond. And these are all of the people on the committee. I added one extra today. There's quite a few of us. So if you are here, you want to stand up and introduce yourselves?
Terry Castonway, Leeds Central School District-wide Librarian.
Iva Damon, I teach visual art here at the high school.
Amy Musso, I'm the coach at Leeds Central.
And?
I'll get away so I don't blow people's ears off. Jeff Sear, technology teacher, Turner Primary School and Leeds Central School.
And I am also on the committee as well. So I think one of the things as we go into this next slide is to just think about that our membership represents all 6 schools' varied positions. It's not just computer science teachers. Some of us are administrators, there are instructional coaches, art teachers, librarians. It's a very awesome group. That's not what I was going to say, but I lost the word. Okay, so because we're such a large group and because our focus has been in 3 areas, we've divided up into subcommittees. So the curriculum subcommittee is working on updating and aligning our district computer science curriculum. We've been using ISTE and CSTA standards. The Communications Committee has established a district-wide, somewhat monthly newsletter. You may have seen it, called Bite-Sized News. Bite-sized news. I have to say it and spell it every time. And the Partners Committee is working to connect with our greater community to computer science. And we've got more on that we will share. We really have tried to focus on curriculum and communications because we need to know what we're doing before we totally reach out to the community and the district partnerships. We're really looking for real-life applications in computer science. So on this slide, you will see photos that show examples of students using computer science. Someone's going to have to help me with what that is called on the left. Does anybody know?
A spherobolt.
A spherobolt is happening on the left. And those we received as part of the computer science mobile.
But there were some before, but now there are full classroom sets that we can use and loan out through the district.
Okay. And on the right, a student has created a custom controller with Makey Makey to play his online drum. Makey Makey is, I don't know what this is, I'm reading what other people on the committee say. Makey Makey is a piece of hardware that allows students to explore making simple circuits that connect to one's computer, use applications, and allow students to create something that connects to anything conductive. In this photo, students are learning about coding skills and imagining new ways to transport products and raw materials around the world while working on a project called First Lego League Explore. Students are using one of our new CSI mobile kits to explore programming. Did I get that right? I made that up today.
Nice.
Good job. Hanging around with people that know what they're talking about.
That was an indie. The little.
That was indie,
Yeah.
and it's a little. I don't think it showed. Oh wait,
It's the same brand as Zero, right?
it may show it. I don't know if I can go back. It's a little hard. Okay. So the other piece that members of the team did is we collected student testimonials. So we will play those now. These are some second graders. I'm going to pause for a minute while Harry turns the volume up.
I think it's going to work. Try it.
Do you look forward to computer class?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of your favorite parts of the day.
Yeah. We were building like a little swing set, and we had made it to see stuff. So I wanted to make it so it could be upgraded. So the people would be able to go one to be up and one to be down. So yeah, we connected it to the swings.
Yeah, you have to have an iPad to do this, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to solve problems too?
No, I don't think so. Just grab like it gives you the pieces that you need first.
Oh yeah,
It's like
it's
apps.
Okay.
Yeah, you need like a special app for it. Me and Hunter were able to do it.
Okay. And then once you had a problem, you just figured it out.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by problem solving.
Just before you get over.
Oh, good.
It's like try to do this. We can make it. All you had to do is go to the color, and then it would make that block able to go through, and it would show up green.
Right, and so if it didn't work, you would know something was wrong.
Yeah, I wish there was like, yeah, they'll take the.
Well, they do have robotics competitions in the older grades, and when you get to middle school and high school. Yeah.
I saw someone that was like a robot that was made out of junk, and then it was helping people to make cars a lot faster. Yeah, so it was super really good to use.
So it doesn't really matter how old you are? Does it matter if you're a boy or girl or how old you are? Any of that, you can use computer science.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? All right, guys, thank you very much. Can you say goodbye?
Hi, my name is Liquid, and this is Auburn. And one of our favorite things about computer class is how we get to do free choice and how Thank you for watching. Bye.
You know what? It's okay. Oh boy. Maybe not.
Seeing those kids.
Yes, please. Okay.
So, Aubrey, what is your favorite part of computer science?
The favorite part is programming robots, and it's a program for them to move and make sounds. I do like it, so I've been able to program robots on word blocks and stuff, and I get to learn how to do Python. We get to do a lot of stuff with robots, and we program with them, so like they move, and sometimes there's directions on them, and you have to go through the directions to build your robot, and I really love robots and how to do it.
What are you thinking about doing with robots?
I'm thinking about building robots, like the show called BattleBots, and make them actually go and tournaments and competitions against other robots.
So do you think that the stuff that you're learning with computer science now, you think that that will be able to help you as you grow up and doing what you want to do?
Definitely, I keep going.
What computer science means to me is it is the ability for someone to be very open and creative. They can really do anything with their mind, with the right teachings. It's very not complex. It's very simple. It's very smooth lined. There is a bit of a learning curve if you don't know how to actually use a keyboard or a mouse, for instance. But eventually, you'll get to a point where you can really make anything, even something as stupid as a fridge that opens up and like throws cans into it and shows it off like you're making an advertisement, but it's not real. You can do anything. You can do ships, and then you can even turn the thing that's digital into something that's real, like with 3D printing. I think that has a lot of opportunity. And in computer science as well, there's also the art of AIs. That's a new thing. AIs are able to create art that humans used to be able to really say only they could do, but AIs are now able to do that effortlessly in seconds. And I think that's kind of an amazing and scary thing that we're going to be able to see in the future.
And we wanted to close with this quote, which, I don't know what I did there. Okay, you can see it? Oh, okay. If we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. And that is from John Dewey. I don't know if anyone else that's here on the committee would like to add anything, or if anyone has any questions for us.
Questions on
I don't look, it does look like she wants to say something.
Well, we've been playing a little bit more with, okay, so we did a day where we played with the new technology that's coming up so that we would know a little bit better before it comes into our classroom. And one of those is a full set of VR cubes. So students are able to sit with an iPad, but on the other side, they have this 3D cube that they can hold. They can hold famous artworks in their hand and be able to manipulate them in 3D, to be able to see all of those sides. They're able to visit multiple famous monuments throughout the entire Earth, and it's sitting in their palm for them to be able to manipulate, see them. A lot of them also have extended questions that are built into them. And so a lot of it, I don't have to take students to the museum for them to be able to see. We don't have to travel to all of these, which taking them to a museum is essential. Like learning that's a skill, but I can't take them across the entire globe in a class period, but it can be brought to them in the palm of their hand. We're also looking at the spheros, which are these little tiny round balls that you can connect to their cell phones at the high school, or there are tablets that you could use. And initially, we just start off by they can read messages back to you. You can change the color of them, but you can drive them. But then you can program them to do exactly those steps. So another teacher in this building has programmed them to go from their classroom on this end of the building and then bring them down to the A wing, well, where we are in the art room, and they had to be able to have that sequence completely lined up so it stopped perfectly at our door. What I want to do is they're also watertight, so they work really well in paint. So they can program it to actually draw the painting on their canvas. And and one of those, like, they can test it beforehand, but then we can throw it in paint and see if it actually did what we're supposed to on the canvas. But you can wash it after. They also are able to perhaps float. So in a controlled location, we can kind of play with them and how they manipulate through that space, which gives us those kind of capabilities. Aside from this, it's why I'm playing with a Glowforge in my classroom, and kids are learning how to make those files and what they are. The student that was on the high school one kind of keeps bouncing back and forth between Bhutan's and mine of building these things that started off with her room and he's making some of them as 3D models. And he's like, yeah, but now I want to come to yours. And then how can we cut these different things to have other ways to utilize it? So it's just kind of a neat way to see that the disciplines, the barriers are able to kind of be broken down seamlessly.
I'll just add to that. So when we started this process, we went through a company called, it's called Script. And so we used a process, and one of the videos they showed us had to do with jobs that are not even created yet. And so we're instructing our students in things that we don't even understand 100%. And so there's so much potential with the things that we're giving these students. And you'd also notice a difference in, Jeff and I have talked about this extensively, the types of students that are attracted to this type of work. And so you might have a student who is not responding well to other content areas, and they take off when you give them computer science. So we are giving them a more well-rounded education by giving them these options, but also we're preparing them better for more things. And we've even gotten involved with a partnership with Betsy, with her cows and some of the Fitbits that they use. I call them Fitbits. There's technology in almost every career field, and it's just, the kids know that. They are more open to it than we are even, and they can pick up a device and use it almost faster than a teacher can. And so that familiarity is what's making it a little bit more difficult to teach it, but we just need to be open to it, and I think it's going to be good.
And a lot of it is, you're not changing what you did in your class. It's one, understanding that it's already there, and how can you change it? Computational thinking is the same thing as the creative process. It's just semantics.
I just have a comment. I'm like really impressed. I heard one of the students mention Python, and it just like struck me as funny, sort of, because I am 40, and we find ourselves like being the older people in our careers sometimes, even at 40. So my friend works at a Harvard lab as a chemist, and she had to go back and take a Python class because all of the 20-something-year-olds were able to collect their data and arrange it much faster than her because she was manually entering it. So she had to go back and learn how to do Python. So I think it's awesome that our kids are learning Python at like the elementary school. That's awesome, because it is the future, so.
Yeah. I just want to say that it's very encouraging to see the enthusiasm that is emanating from you as teachers, because we know that that's also contagious for the kids. So it sounds like a pretty awesome program. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Any other questions or comments? I would just say, again, kudos. The enthusiasm is great, and look forward to more of the classical partner opportunity type stuff. Thanks. Brings us to 8.3. And 8.3 is approval of overnight field trip for Lemberry High School's Riders Club to attend the Maine Junior Classical League Spring Convention in the beautiful Winthrop. Do we have a motion for that? So moved. Do we have a second? Second. discussion on this one?
We're still doing that. I was hoping Mr. Lund was going to be here tonight too, to let us know what our catapult chances It's no, I don't say that.
The chariot is good.
Go Chariot.
Any other discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Luck with that chariot. 8.4 is approval of the 23-24 school calendar. Do we have a motion on that one? Still? Do we have a second? Discussion on this one. Carrie?
Yeah. So two things that will be updated. I noticed that February 19th and April 15th are both holidays, but they're not noted on this calendar, so we'll make those corrections tomorrow. I just want to point out, this year, we have a half-day scheduled, a half-day for staff and students scheduled the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. We've moved that to the Friday before April vacation. We're hopeful that will provide staff members who are traveling a little time, so we don't have to work with personal day requests and things like that. That seems to be a more popular sort of area. We have a half day for professional development pretty much in every month except for December. The half day that's in March and the half day that's in November are for conferences. The other half days that are on here are for teacher and administrators to do building-based work. The last thing I'll point out to you is that we have 5 snow days, and all of us sort of feel like after our single remote day this year, that moving forward, if we have more than 5 snow days, we will just automatically go to remote. It helps us know the exact end of the school year. It allows us to plan ahead if we start to see snow days coming. Having done it once now, it seems to be a good way to keep families and staff members and everybody knowing how the year's going to end. So we have just put in 5 snow days. Those will be traditional snow days. Anything after that would be a remote learning day. I think that's it. One other change, the workshop day in January has been on the second Friday. So like on this calendar would have been the 12th. All of the superintendents agreed to move it to Monday, the 22nd. A couple reasons for us, pre-K, teachers have their planning time on Fridays. So by having all the workshop days on Fridays, it was impacting their ability to do that work. It also more properly aligns with the end of the semester at the high school level. So it seemed like a better break. So it also gives us a full week of school the second week back after January. Prior to this, it was just like this broken up, not full week. So we have to be in alignment with all of the schools that send to Lewiston Regional Technical Center. So major changes involve all of the superintendents agreeing. So that's really the major change that we all agreed to this year, was moving that workshop day.
Discussion, questions?
I have just an observation for November. I noticed that the 10th is Veterans Day, and that conferences follow in the following week on a Thursday, which I am assuming, based upon what that the 17th would be a full day for everybody. So I'm just wondering why the committee that put this together decided to put the conferences there instead of before the 10th, because I just know how hard it is as a teacher to have conferences and then, be up and running the next day, being a Friday. I just wondered if there was a reason or if that was something that could be looked at.
So that is where they have fallen in this year. That's where that was. I guess I maintained that same, and when I met with administrators and Judith, we sort of just left it on that day. But you're absolutely right. There is no other way to do it without having that happen. But I guess I would defer to those who've sort of made that scheduling decision prior to me. And then, Teresa. Okay.
Did you call me?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you, yes. So one of the reasons is when teachers have to work until 8 o'clock at night for conferences, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, it is a very long day. I believe that the rationale of having it there is because it aligns with the trimester, and therefore there's more instructional time for teachers and more learning time for students prior to having the conferences. If it was before the 10th, it would shorten the amount of instructional time that teachers would have, because that really is built also around when report cards go home.
Okay, so I was asking, yeah, so report cards.
The good news is it only happens one time because the one in March is next to a workshop day. So,
Other questions?
Thank you. If we are comfortable using remote days after the 5 snow days, could you talk a little bit about why we're not comfortable just doing remote days, period?
like full remote days?
And not having snow days?
I will just speak for my own personal. I think snow days are okay, having just a snow day, a traditional snow day. In my previous district, that was the decision that was made. We sort of identified these are going to be traditional snow days, and then everything after that would be remote. That was our calendar last year. The snow days typically fall in a manner that is not necessarily a bad time for some downtime for staff and students. In general, no snow days at all might be met from students with some hurt feelings. So, because the snow day is a thing, it's a thing. So, I was not comfortable in saying every single day that we had for a storm was going to be a remote day. But also 5 days lines up perfectly so that we wouldn't have to go past that Friday. This year, Juneteenth became an issue, and sort of it eliminates ever having to deal with the Juneteenth. And I don't think we all know the remote learning is not awesome, so having too many of them is probably not. That would be, if we have our regular 5 days that we typically have, 5 days of remote learning is not as good as having those 5 days be in person.
I wanted to add too that our students with IEPs have in some cases have specially designed instruction that takes place in the summer, and that typically does not start until, I think this year it's the week after the 4th of July, so that's a huge chunk of time that if we were to get out on June 7th, that would be over a month that they would not, these students with higher out of school.
Anybody else want to speak to that? Joe?
I want to speak to that.
Joe?
No, by approving this calendar, are we approving the remote days after 5, or is there more discussion on that about remote school after those 5 days?
So, Carrie, I'm so sorry. So, if you mean by the manner in which it's delivered, the manner in which we do it, that is a work in progress. The plan we put together this year was put together quickly. Certainly, we'll go back and review what we did and what those plans were to determine if they were, if we did the best that we could do. That was a short planning turnaround time. It was a big, heavy lift for teachers and administrators. So the hope would be knowing ahead of time, we have much more planning to do to make sure that it's appropriate. That's, if the conversation is about like remote at all, this presumes there would be remote days after 5 days.
Other discussion on this one? Questions, comments? No? All those in favor of the calendar as presented? Unanimous. Brings us to 8.5, and 8.5 is second reading and adoption of Curriculum and Policy Committee recommended revised policy GCI, and that is professional staff development opportunities. Do we have a motion on this one? Do we have a second?
A second.
Still discussion on this one.
I make a motion to amend the policy with these additions following G, and I have them printed out if people would like them for reference. That way. Thank you. Professional development on sensitive or controversial issues shall be objectively and scholarly, with a minimum of emphasis on opinion and a maximum emphasis on facts. The topic shall be announced publicly no less than 1 week in advance. In such professional development, participating staff have the following rights: to have free access to all relevant information, to form and express opinions on controversial issues without thereby jeopardizing relations with their colleagues and/or school administration, and to competent instruction in an atmosphere free from bias and prejudice. Accordingly, the presenter shall not use the opportunity as a personal forum.
Do we have a second? So we need to deal with the amendment first, so discussion. As presented, let's have a printed copy.
Were the points in this amendment, were they discussed in policy committee already? Yeah.
Jamie,
I think I've seen it on.
So policy GCI that you have in front of you, that was part of 8.5. This is the policy that we voted 2-1, Tammy and I, to bring forth to you guys as the board. This is the one that we recommend. I believe you guys got the other policy at the last board meeting that included these additions. So they were this, I think, Anthony, correct, that these are the same additions to the one that they got at the last board meeting?
I think so.
Yeah. So yes, they were discussed at committee meetings.
And I guess that's the question. So this amendment was basically proposed at policy committee level. Policy committee did not accept it, and you brought forth what we see before us now. It did not include the current amendment.
Correct.
Okay.
other discussion on the amendment? And again, this is on the amendment. Tammy?
Yeah. One of the things that we did discuss that these were two, there were the two different policies that came forth. And we did discuss that it would be important to have an opportunity to also discuss the other policy, if I remember correctly. And I think that that was part of the reason that you wanted to bring this forth, just to be sure that it was discussed. Am I correct on that, remember?
No, I mean, I would, well,
Anthony?
I'm sorry, I forget.
partial. I think that I think these amendments are important, and so I think it is more than just having it heard. But I think this is the last opportunity to make what I think are necessary amendments.
Other discussion on Carrie?
So I'll just make a quick comment. I think this is to tie in the controversial topic policy that exists in instruction, correct? For that appeal, that is part of what students have a right to engage in. They have a right to learn about controversial issues. If I remember when you brought this forward before. So I'll just offer that students need this kind of information because they are students, right? They are forced to be here. So we have a policy in terms of how we support them in that instruction, what they have the right to, what we expect our teachers to do. Teachers are adults. They have First Amendment rights themselves. They cannot be disciplined for having personal opinions. So I don't think they're connected in any way, shape, or form, and don't think that this belongs with the professional development policy for that reason.
Teresa?
And just to add to what Carrie just said, we did run these additions, and Anthony's request to add this to the policy through Maine School Management, Steve Bailey and Charlotte Bates, and we were advised not to add them in, and that was discussed at committee as well.
Other discussion?
Teresa, what was the reason why they didn't want to add it in?
It was, let me see if I have it in my notes here. These two policies are completely separate with completely separate intentions, and I think Carrie explained that one's for students and one is for staff. Policy IMB ensures a student's right to engage in learning about controversial topics and form their own informed opinion. And then also the opening paragraph of policy IMB is important to consider, and I've got it here so I can read it. Training in reflective and responsive thinking may be incorporated into course offerings at all grade levels. This training is impossible or at least severely hampered if the community does not respect the principles of freedom and recognize that dissent does not necessarily mean disloyalty. However, one form of dissent which is incompatible with freedom is that which attempts to end freedom. Irrational fears do just this and thereby may block the school in its efforts to handle controversial issues in an atmosphere of freedom and thoroughness. So we were just told that they were policies, we had quite a lengthy discussion, that they were two separate policies and they should not be blended together, whereas one is for students and one is for staff.
So although it is not a policy that I propose that is before us tonight, this policy comes to us as the result of my concerns about professional development that encouraged behavior contradictory to policy, in my opinion, lacked intellectual rigor and political neutrality, and which the presenter used as a soapbox for their social political cause. I submitted amendments which address these issues by setting a high bar for any professional development which touches upon sensitive or controversial issues, topics that are highly politically charged and which may stray far from the business of helping our teachers become more effective at helping their students to improve their academic performance. In our committee meeting, the policy I proposed was never adequately discussed, in my opinion. The superintendent's lengthy and, I am sorry to add, highly misleading comments about it were read without a chance by me to rebut them, which prejudiced our deliberations. Before you tonight is a rival policy, informed partly by those prejudicial remarks. It is a good policy as far as it goes, and I commend Tammy Fair-Sheeting for her work in bringing it forward. But it does not go far enough. This policy offers no protections against the misuse of professional development by activists of any political persuasion, people who use opportunities like this to make incremental progress toward their agendas. My amendments offers those protections. You will note that they deal only with professional development that deals with controversial or sensitive topics. What are those? Some examples could include sexuality, race or ethnicity-based assessment, white guilt or fragility, or anything dealing with religion. My amendments allow professional development on all of those topics, but they set a more rigorous standard, similar to how policy IJJ sets a higher standard for teaching about controversial or sensitive topics to students. Now, perhaps you think that I'm overstating things, making too much of too little, in an attempt to persuade you that I am not, and that professional development on hot-button issues needs to be more rigorous. I will remind you all of last year's professional development in which the presentation urged staff to whom a student had revealed their sexuality to respond to that student not as policy dictates, but by, and I'm quoting, commit to finding resources about that sexuality and learning together. Now, the superintendent and the Maine School Management Association would have you believe that amendments such as those that I put forward are, quote, a dangerous precedent to set and target specific trainings that are considered controversial, their scare quotes, not mine, by some, end quote. Controversial by some? The fact that adult non-family members discussing a child's sexuality with them without the parent's knowledge is widely considered taboo should surprise no one. It has been so for millennia. I want to be very clear to everyone on this board. I spoke with many members of the public from a wide range of ages, education levels, income levels, of different sexes and sexualities, and across the political spectrum, and not one, and showed them the unedited words of Chris McLaughlin. Not one single person was comfortable with the idea that a teacher would be encouraged to engage in anything but the most cursory conversation with a student about that child's sexuality. None. Guidance like that, given our staff, greases the slippery slope that leads to child abuse, like the hundreds of cases of school staff sexually abusing students in schools across this country this past year. My amendments call for the professional development on sensitive or controversial issues to be objective, with a minimum emphasis on opinion and a maximum emphasis on facts. This strikes me as only respectful of the time and expertise of our staff, who deserve the best. We hire professionals, and we should treat them as such. My amendments call for professional development on controversial topics to provide information that is not one-sided. My amendments require this kind of professional development to allow our staff to question, to raise issues and express opinions about the topics without jeopardizing their relationships with colleagues or the administration. Now, perhaps you have noticed in recent years, voices of dissent, expert voices, voices informed by vast knowledge and focused knowledge, were shut off and canceled. This created an illusion of accepted thought, when in fact there was widespread dissent. If we're going to bother to offer professional development on hot-button topics, the experience and knowledge our staff will take away from it will be richer if we ensure that the ideas can be questioned and the arguments can be honed through debate. The very last thing we need is for this kind of professional development to be authoritarian or top-down. Why is the requirement that professional development not be used by presenters as a personal forum objectionable? If you disagree, you must believe that it is acceptable, and in which case the burden is upon you to convince me and the public that a public school should be politically partisan. Good luck on that. I want our professional development to focus on helping teachers help their students flourish and achieve their absolute best. It may be that sometimes that means that the topic has to venture into hot-button subjects. When it does, it needs to be rigorous, it needs to be honest and politically neutral. We would be entirely remiss if we did not ensure that our policy stipulates that. Therefore, I implore you all to show the people of our community that you respect them, respect our teachers, and respect the importance of a non-biased school by voting to accept my amendments. Thank you.
Other discussion on this one? So I have something I'd like to say, actually. I find it unfortunate that our subcommittee process is not such that discussion is adequate, and that lens of adequacy is based more on what prevailing policy that comes out of the committee is than whether a discussion actually occurred. I agree wholeheartedly that we should hire professionals and treat them as such and as adults with First Amendment rights. I think that we have to have trust someplace that folks are doing the work that we've hired them for, that we agree that they're credentialed in the manner that we stipulate that they are, and that hinting that something other than that is going on is at best unfortunate, at worst something far more nefarious than that. So I in no way think that these additions are good. Is there other discussion on the amendment before us? Sydney?
From the perspective of a student, I just want to say, we talk about how we respect teachers. They're obviously educated to teach us. This seems like we're going directly against that and undermining their ability to do so.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I just, as part of the committee that talks about these policies, I just want it to be known that this policy showed up on our agenda multiple times
Our meetings are 50 minutes long. It was discussed at length. Tammy worked very, very hard, very diligently on her own time at home, bringing in information to add to this. That was discussed at length. And you were given the opportunity to talk and give the superintendent.
Let's avoid back and forth at all. This is an opportunity for board members to comment as it relates to the amendment.
So I just want the public to know that it was discussed at length in subcommittee meeting. Also, I know you guys don't have copies of the policy, but Anthony read part of the amendments. So part of what Tammy brought forward and that MSMA revised for us and is being put in does provide one that says to provide rigorous results-based and data-driven opportunities that are focused on student learning. And I feel as though that kind of speaks to the amendments that were mentioned in these as well. So I do think some of this is part of the new GCI policy as well.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Well, so as a student, I don't think I've ever experienced any issues with this in school except for one time where I discussed it with a teacher and it was taken care of. But I would fail my AP history exams if this was an issue that had to go forward because we learned from the books where these controversial issues are there that we have to learn history.
Other discussion? Tammy?
I just want to say that, to remember that we are required to give a great deal of time into the development of policy. It does take time. And, I think that some of the points that Anthony is making are very important. I'm not sure exactly where this discussion needs to take place and if it should be in policy itself. When I went to try to work on this policy, because I came at it from a teacher's perspective. I can't help it, that's who I am. And I looked at all the policies across the state. They're pretty much the same. So I went to some other sources in other states to try to give more focus, because the current policy is one that, talked about new things, but we also want to evaluate current things. We want to make sure that we're doing a good job giving teachers what they need, that we get the feedback that we need to give you the resources that you need. And we have been hearing from teachers, please let us teach, right? Let's get back to what we're here for. We know that this is a politically hot, divisive time. And we need to be respectful because there are people in many different places, and I feel like having these conversations in and of itself isn't a bad thing. I think it's really important. But we also need to realize that we're here, the main reason we're here is to educate our children and to pour into them that we care, right? That they matter, that they have a purpose. They're trying to find out who they are, and we walk alongside of them. And my heart is to give teachers, and perhaps we need more feedback in developing a policy that affects you and what you're doing day in and day out, and the training. We're doing the best we can to put that forth. I mean, there's so much that could be said about this. I respect what he's saying here. I'm just not sure that it belongs in our policy. And I guess my question is, how do we have those important conversations about some of the outside influences, political activists, and all this sort of thing that have always been trying to push their way into our classroom? That doesn't mean we don't talk controversial. in my opinion. Let's have those rigorous conversations, but let's make sure that both sides are well represented.
So I'm going to punt on that one since this is my last meeting, but absolutely hopefully those are the sorts of conversations that the board is having. Is there any additional discussion on the amendment before us? You've already spoken twice. Robert's rules says twice.
I'm sorry, I haven't.
Each.
I have to appeal from that decision.
Does say twice, up to 10 minutes.
I will appeal from that decision.
How would you imagine that appeal might be handled, given that Robert's rules state each member might have...
You're the board chair. Why don't you do this the way that you're supposed to according to the rules? I have appealed from the decision of the chair. What do you do?
I have a couple options. I can find a book of Robert's rules, and I can check out what those rules are. I know full well that it says twice.
I move
for
to
each
end
member.
discussion and vote. I'll second.
Second. All those in favor of moving? This is just on the amendment, remember?
You must call for a second on my motion.
That's why
You do not call for a second on an appeal from the decision of the chair.
That's correct. I did not.
You must do that.
Is there a second on Mr. Shostak's appeal for the chair?
Can you repeat that again?
Yep. So Mr. Shostak is indicating that the proper formal means of responding to his appeal is ensuring that there is or is not a second to that appeal. So I am hitting rewind and asking if there's a second to that appeal. Absent a second, the appeal ends. And we had a motion and a second to handle the amendment, to call the question, so to speak. All those in favor of calling the question, that has to happen first, and then we can vote on the amendment as well. So to be clear, what we're voting on first is to cease debate. What we will vote on the second is the amendment.
You should remind me who had the second on the end discussion. Crystal, thank you. Thanks. Jessica's called the question.
It's Jill. So all those in favor of calling the question? Those opposed? One abstaining. Two opposed and one abstaining. So the motion passes. All those in favor of the amendment that's been offered? Those opposed? Abstains? Two abstains? Two abstentions. So the amendment fails. So the motion, our original motion, which was for the second reading and adoption of Curriculum and Policy Committee recommended revised policy GCI, professional staff development opportunities. Is there any additional discussion on this one? All those in favor? Those opposed? Unopposed? Abstentions or opposed? Abstain. Okay. Two abstentions on the policies. Tammy.
Oh, Tammy.
Okay. So the motion passes. That brings us to first reading and acceptance of revised policy EDA, and that is bus driver examination. Do we have a motion on this one? Do we have a second on that one? Okay. Discussion on this one.
Jamie, read first.
Discussion on this one?
Just help me with the question. Probably bus drivers, van drivers, same thing?
Yes.
Can I speak?
Yes, part two. It's actually called It's actually called Student Transportation Employee Requirements, Training, and Responsibilities. We've changed the title.
So C is each school bus driver operating a vehicle carrying 10 passengers. And then the superintendent is directed to obtain motor vehicle records and checks for any school employee who transports students as part of their regular duties, and that includes van drivers or even if they drive a car with somebody in it.
Jessica, is that
Similar.
other discussion or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. That brings us to 8.7, and that is first reading and acceptance of revised policy IIB, pre-K through 6, class size and composition. Do we have a motion on that one? Kyle? Do we have a second? Tammy? Discussion? Any discussion on this one? If not, all those in favor? Unanimous. That brings us to 8.8, first reading and acceptance of revised policy IK, academic achievement. Do we have a motion on this one? Crystal? Do we have a second? Tammy? Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Brings us to 8.9. 8.9 is first reading and acceptance of revised policy ILA, student testing. Do we have a motion on this one? Jessica? Do we have a second on this one? Jamie? Discussion on this one? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Unanimous.
I did not.
Abstention or opposed? One opposed? 8.10, first reading and acceptance of revised policy JLCEA, students with food allergies and regulations JLCEAR, students with food allergies regulations. Motion on this one? Jamie? Do you have a second on this one?
Second.
Tammy had her hand up first, so that's good. Discussion on this one? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Unanimous. 8.11, deletion of revised policy EFC, school lunch charges. Do we have a motion on this one? Do we have a second on this one? Crystal? She's hiding. Crystal was a second. Any discussion on this one?
Just so that the public knows, it's a completely outdated policy. There are no charges for school lunches, so we don't need a policy.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just a question, so that's indefinite, free lunch program?
As much as anything, is it? Right, as much as anything.
Sure.
So, any other discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. So our only three.
Before we go to 8.12, we have a little thank you moment. I know, you guys are going to get away with not having a thank you moment. Let that right in. Just wanted to say thank you so much for over 20 years of being thank you enough for your steadfast, calm through some really trying times, especially in the last 4 years. I've only been a member for the last 5 years. I know I picked some really great times to join, but you've been here through a lot, and there's so much history inside your head that I can't imagine that we're going to stop calling you and asking, what did we do back in? So thank you very, very, very much, and I hope you enjoy your time away from us.
Well, thank you very much.
Did you notice you didn't have your gavel?
I sure did. So we can't find the other one. So we got, I don't know what happened to it. So this one you're going to take home with you. Let me just read the inscription. Elizabeth Bullard, 2003 to 2023. Thank you for 20 years of dedicated service to the staff and students of MSAD 52. And I would just say, as a first-year superintendent, I am incredibly grateful for the wisdom, experience, expertise, and institutional memory to have such an exceptional board chair. So I appreciate all the support that you've given me in my first year, making sure that I'm as successful as possible, to make sure that we keep moving forward and doing the good work for kids. So thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thanks very much. That was very kind. And you can tell that it has been 20 years because now my arms are just almost not long enough for me to actually be able to read this. But it's been an honor to work with this many people who have so much dedication to making sure that we're doing the best things for our kids and for our district. So keep up the great work in that regard, and I am confident that there are lots of ways that this board will continue to improve how it works together and continue to do good work for those very same students and the very same staff that is dedicated to that work. So thank you. I will find my next adventures. Perhaps I will find opportunities to use the way. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So back to my initial thought that we could just slide right into 8.12 is a request for an executive session to discuss the Tri-Town Education Association Teachers TTEA negotiations pursuant to 1 MRSA 40517. Motion for that. Tammy, Kyle, Crystal, everybody. All those in favor? It's unanimous. So we will head into executive session. Thanks, folks, for joining us.